What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 194, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin. I'm recovered from my illness. No more dying. I can talk. I can feel full of life. But on today's episode, things that aren't full of life, WB Games, Game Informer, and so much more. But before I get to all that, gotta introduce my co-host, shaking his head at me, JamPackSam. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? It's been a roller coaster of a week. I know right after the show last week, Game Informer randomly was shut down on a Friday. So we'll talk more about that. But the whole week has had like a kind of somber tone to it for me, just because it feels like between Ready at Dawn shutting down and Game Informer shutting down. And then I saw Game Explain had to let some core people go that I knew personally. So it's like, man, it's all over the place. But yeah, it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a rough one. I know we had some more Ready at Dawn got closed down too, which is it's crazy. It's crazy out there. I honestly could not imagine being in the games industry, whether that's like making games or journalism at this moment in time, and just feeling like safe in your job.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like right now, it's just I made a video talking about Game Informer, not to like self-promote too much, but that's what I wanted to do with my life. Like I wanted to be a gaming journalist, which is why I kind of found myself doing what I do now online, where I'm talking about games every day because it's fun for me. I like doing it. But thinking about the alternate reality where I went into that, it's like I empathize with these people even more because it's terrifying to think about what that would have been like. So anybody that's in the development side or the reporting side, I mean, they're in it because they love it. And I feel like that should reap a reward, but it seems like it's reaping a punishment at this point right now economically. It's really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we'll talk more about that when we get to it in the news. But let's get through the housekeeping. This is Project XTalk. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/Save the Game Media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review. Help us in those algorithms. If you want to support us even further and get early audio access to all Save the Game Media content and exclusive bonus post shows, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, Silkenit, Ellery Woods Parker III, and our newest patrons. They stuck around after that 7-day free trial, Chad and Shelby Macy. Thank you for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sam, housekeeping is done, so let's dive right into what have you been playing this week?
Dude, I've been playing a ton of Neon White, and I have been really enjoying it. I know you played through it last week, and I think you rolled credits on it, right?
Yeah, I beat it. Yeah,
so I beat it as well. But then there's the thing at the end where it's like you've got two choices to make, and one of them was locked for me because I didn't do any of like the grindy stuff, and I'm like, well, let me tell you, we're going back. So I think I'm about 10 hours maybe into the Neon White grind, and you can finish it in generally like 4 or 5. But I'm going back through. I've gotten a little over half of the gifts, and then I'm going to try and like wrap it up by the end of this weekend. But I'm definitely not going to 100% the game because that's just like not about all that. But I just want the second ending and to get all the gifts. But it's such a good game, man. It's so fun.
It's so good, and I'm so glad. Shout out friend of the show Sean Capri and Seth Sturgill over there. They would not stop harping about this game for the last 2 years whenever this game came out, and now that's finally on Xbox. Everyone's just like, you know what? You guys were right. This game is really good. Like gameplay wise, the story's actually pretty good too, if you care about that type of thing, which isn't like my main concern where this type of game, but like it's surprisingly way better than I expected.
100%. I think that's what took me by surprise the most, is because I was going in expecting just a standard speed running game with like this weird anime thing going on. And then you get into the story of like, how did we get here? What's going on with White? How is he connected to Red? Is there a love triangle? What's happening? It's actually so good. My fiance's been watching me play it, and she's like, stop skipping dialogue. It's like we're actively involved in it. So it's a really, really good game. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I don't know if you've seen it, but there is the developer reacted the like three developers, they react to the 35-minute speed
I've
run
been
like world
recommended that.
record.
Yeah.
Yes. I do highly like if you just have like some time to or like you're working on video, just have it on the side or whatever. Like it is very entertaining because this dude is so lasered focused while playing these levels, and the devs are trying to talk about each level and they don't even get words out of their mouth before he's moving on to the next. He's like, oh, they beat it all right, beat it all right. It's like there's some crazy stuff that the person that hits set the world record can do, and it's just like the devs are just surprised. They're like, I didn't even think about that. Like that's some ridiculous. Like some
It's
shortcuts
really
are
good stuff.
intended, but yeah.
It's so awesome to be able to kind of break the rules like that, and I'm finding some fun with the gifts going back through and hunting for that because I'll try each level at least once or twice myself to try and figure out how to get to where I need to go. I'm a man of little time, so I'm obviously going to the dude that has 186 subs on YouTube that's just posted
Mhm.
like 30-second clips of how to get these gifts very quickly. So I'm running through those very fast, but yeah, the level design is phenomenal. I love the card system. I literally can't think of anything that I would recommend to do better. Like this is a solid 9 or 10 out of 10
Yeah, I
any day of the
agree.
week.
I
It's
agree.
such a good game, man. I'm so happy that it's finally on Xbox.
What's your favorite chapter? And tell me why it's the rocket launcher chapter though, because
Oh
that one is
God,
so good.
they're all phenomenal. I think my favorite card is the shotgun, where you can kind of like zoom in any
Oh.
direction. But the rocket launcher one's great. They're all really just super impressive visually. Each mission has like a different tone, or each area has a different tone and feel to it. Just a lot of diversity in the gameplay, and it builds on itself so well to where it feels familiar, but you're putting in a new element that switches it up just enough to feel fresh. Just masterclass game design stuff in this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Everyone check out Neon White if you haven't. Is that all you've been playing this week?
That is all I've been playing. I have been pretty packed in with videos and work stuff, so this has
Mhm.
been my sit down grind for an hour or two at night before bed, and I inevitably fall asleep at about 10:30. But what have you been playing,
Yeah.
man? I see a lot of things on this list.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of things, and there's actually one that I didn't put on the list, which I can talk about now. So played the demo of Gory Cuddly Carnage.
Okay,
The publisher was like, "Here's a demo key. Stay tuned for more, hopefully, folks." But I played the demo, which is available now to everyone. But I played it, I think, a week or so ago. Essentially, you play as this cat who has a talking skateboard and computer, and it's kind of like Tony Hawk mixed with a hack and slash game. So
heck yeah.
you use the skateboard to like hack up these unicorns that are trying to kill you. This game is absolute ridiculous. It's so fun though. Like it plays really well, controls really well. Check out the demo. It's only about 30 minutes long, I would say, if that. You can probably get through it a little quicker, but a good introduction to what you would be doing in the game. So I'm hoping maybe some more coverage on that is coming our way here on the channel, but stay tuned. I did enjoy my time with the demo though.
Super cool. Have you heard of a game called Hellskate by chance?
No, I have not.
Okay, so Hellskate is a similar kind of concept where it's basically a hack and slash Tony Hawk game, but it's got like this, it's almost like a Hades kind of vibe to it. It was actually, I don't know if he footed the bill or helped with the development directly, but Quabble Cop is a YouTuber that was like back in the day, he was kind of a bigger guy.
Mhm.
He jumped in and he started developing this, and it came out in, I can't remember if it was full release or early access earlier this year, but the dev sent me a code and it's really good. Runs well on Steam Deck, and I assume ROG Ally as well if you're into that. But yeah, happy to hear that that kind of thing is starting to kind of seed itself more. I love the mashup of the gameplay styles for two different things.
Yeah. So it's on everything except Switch. So that's PC, Xbox, PlayStation. Check it out if you feel like playing a fun, silly demo. Bam in the chat, who's Sam Heaney, of course, says, I just picked up a physical copy of Neon White. Looking forward to diving in.
Very nice.
Do it. Do it. So good. So good. I rolling through my list here because I got a bunch more. I'll go with the one I've played the least. That's Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remake. I've had this for a little bit now. I got rid of Luigi's Mansion. It's gone. I sold that, got some money back, but I've had this one. I have played the prologue and I'm into chapter one, so not that far. I would say maybe an hour or two into the game so far. It's good. It was what I remember. I just don't know if I'm in the mood right now for a turn-based
Mm,
RPG. So I was like, I don't want to like keep pushing through and then ruin the experience because I know this game is really good. Like I played it on the GameCube, so I'm just gonna like slowly work here and there, like through the chapters, and I'll make my way through it. And then when I feel like that, I'll really dive into it.
Yeah, totally. I'm kind of in the same boat with thinking about what I want to play next because I chose Neon White because I was coming off of I think I just played Lords of the Fallen if I remember correctly is the thing that I was kind of moving out of, and I was in that weird in between spot. And it's like I got a code for Star Wars Bounty Hunter, the like re-release remaster thing that I want to play it. I've got it. I'm ready to play. It's installed, but I'm like, man, I'm just not feeling it right now. Like I'm not in that mindset, and I'm like you. I don't want to force myself to feel something for a game that I'm not feeling like playing right now. So that'll probably be next up on the roster. But yeah, take it as you feel it, man. Don't force yourself to play a game you're not feeling.
Yeah. It's what's funny is I have two more games to talk about, and I'll go to this one because forcing myself to play games. People might think I'm forcing myself to play this. If you've seen my Discord, you know what game I'm going to talk about. But I've been playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. All right. And
Why?
so I put down paper. I was like, I want something more a little involved. All right. I want something like not like thinking. I just want kind of mindless, like shooting is
Yep.
really what I was looking for. And I was like, what do I have that I could play? And then I was like, oh, I got Suicide Squad free from Amazon Prime Gaming like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago or whatever that was. So I installed that on my PC here. And I have killed one member of the Justice League, and I'm a little past that. Um, there's a lot to say about this game. Most of it negative. Most of it negative for sure. I don't think it's a particularly good game. You get a lot thrown at you that's like I'm not really interested in this. Like, I just want to play like a linear story campaign.
Right.
Instead, you have to like go from objective marker to objective marker across Metropolis. And I tried out all the characters, and I know Sam in the chat here is saying Boomerang the goat. I think Boomerang is undoubtedly the worst controlling character in that game. I hate him.
I did not like the beta. The beta Boomerang was not my cup of tea. I did not like that.
I wanted to like Boomerang because the Flash is my favorite hero. So I was like, okay, he has the Speed Force in him. Like, hopefully it'll be like the Flash. No. It wasn't really like that. Deadshot is who I'm maining. So I'm playing Deadshot. I just basically just use the sniper and like fly around in my jetpack, picking people off. And I'm like, I'm not really doing much thinking. I'm just kind of like jumping around, blow things up. It's just mindless, especially because most of it is like kill the purple guy here, kill the purple guy here, shoot this purple orb over here. Now go over to this other place and do the exact same thing. And I'm like, when do I start killing the Justice League though? And I finally got to that. So the story is not grabbing me. I don't particularly think it's very good or interesting, and I say that as someone that loves superheroes. So this is really just a game. Like I'm gonna finish it. It's just I don't know why I'm playing it. Like I don't
I
know.
mean, I want to play it at some point. I want to play it on console. I want to play it on Xbox, and I definitely want to play it to get through the story because it's just a fun superhero story. I love the fact though that you were like, I want mindless shooting. Gee, I wish Call of Duty was on Game Pass. Just to, like literally the mindless shooter that's like the pinnacle of that. And you're like, you know what? Amazon's Epic Games version of Suicide Squad. That's the one that I'm going with. But hey,
Yeah.
I respect it. No hard feelings. I respect it.
Listen, I had to get this game to run well, and by well I mean like
I was wondering, don't you have
no,
like a mid tier
yeah, I
kind
got
of like?
a 1660
Oh,
Super for my graphics card. To get the game to run at 60 FPS consistently, everything's on low. I had to set like some upscaling things going on. Sometimes Harley Quinn looking like Vaseline melting on it, like her. I'm just like a little rough here, but I'm not in it for the graphics. All right.
yeah. I the other game that I did play this week, I had to do a similar kind of thing. I forgot to mention it, but I played like 1 or 2 rounds of Delta Force Hawk Ops, the new free to play shooter that's coming, and it's kind of like a Black Hawk Down, but it's a big Battlefield game, and I was playing on my PC, and it's like I was trying to record at the same time. I've got the 3060 Ti going, and it's got this kind of like ultra wide kind of thing going. Oh, 30, 40 FPS, like 480p was not looking good. So I'm right there with you of like, man, looking like these PC games, they're getting a little hard to run these days.
Well, my initial thought was maybe I should play it on the ROG Ally, and then I looked up how well it runs, and people were like, "If you set everything to low and run in this mode, you can get a consistent 32 frames." I was like, "I'm not doing this. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not playing it 720 32 with frame drops." So,
Yeah,
uh,
that feels like Helldivers when I played on Steam Deck, and it was like you can get 40 FPS. Guess what? It's 160p, and all of it, everything's set to low. Congratulations.
yeah. So, I've heard that you kind of don't you kill like one Justice League member in the first 4 hours, and then the next five you'll just take them all out. So I'm like, okay, this game's about to ramp up real quick, hopefully, and I'll finish that by next week. I'm thinking I should be able
Nice.
to wrap that up. But the one game I want to talk about before we get into the news was a game I got a review code for that I played over the weekend. My review is live on the channel for anyone that missed it, and that is Creatures of Ava. So
Tell
this
me
is
about it.
a Game Pass game dropped yesterday into Game Pass for Xbox, PC. I think it is exclusive. I don't think it's on PlayStation or Switch. This is a catchy or creature catcher, essentially, where instead of catching like Pokemon to battle, you are saving the creatures and you want to send them up to space because their planet is being infected by this sort of malignant growth that's like infecting the wildlife there. So you can find this magic flute that can cure the planet and can cure the creatures. So when you cure the creatures automatically like you. They're like, "Oh my god, thank you so much. You took all the branches out of me." Then you can pet them. They'll follow you around if you play some music for them, but then you can take control of them essentially, and they're used for puzzle solving. So some of the creatures can burrow underground, they can go through tunnels, they can jump long distances, knock down barriers, things like that. And you'll use that to like explore the world because it is they say it's open world, and I would say it's more open zone. Like there's 4 zones in the area, real biomes, each with their own unique monsters or creatures that you can save and use in that biome. There's side quests to do if you're interested in that. I didn't particularly find them very interesting when I was doing the side quests. I do think the main story though is really good. Like it actually is a pretty emotional tale about like acceptance, self-discovery, and has a pretty powerful message about like saving the planet and everything. So I like this game a lot. I won't go into full spoil. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like if you want more, go check out my review. But yeah, big surprise for me. Really, really enjoyed Creatures of Ava.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I saw your review land, and yeah, man, I think that more games like this on Game Pass is always going to be better for people to just explore and find new stuff. So I'm looking at gameplay right now, and I might add it to the list after. I feel like Dungeons of Hinterberg is the one I want to go to next, but
Likes that
Creatures
game.
of Ava is one. It's definitely one that I've had my eye on since it was announced because it felt like one of those. It's a very very good Game Pass game, and I hope that that can help spread the word around it as people kind of figure it out that it's actually really good.
Yeah, I was happy to see it reviewing pretty well. It came in around an 80 or an 8 out of 10. I think that's if I had to give a number, which we don't do. I just recommended it. I would probably put it around there because there are a few things that hold it back for me. Like one of the main mechanics is playing the flute, and the way that's done is like you'll see a creature and then the notes will play over their head and you have to match it on your flute. But if you don't like hold it to a similar length that the creature did, or sometimes they'll do double notes, but you can't really tell it's a double note because it's the same thing. And
Mm.
it just gets a little frustrating sometimes when you're trying to figure out what notes they're playing.
Right, right, yeah. The gameplay mechanics, I'm gonna have to get in there and figure it out because, like, tell me you're playing a flute and you got to match it with the animal. Like, I know what you're talking about, but I feel like I got to see it for myself because that's something right there.
Yeah, it'll make sense once you see it for sure. But yeah, everyone, please go check out Creatures of Ava. You can go check out my review if you want more details. But really, really good. And with that, I think that will bring us to the news. So we were talking about Suicide Squad. Let's talk about WB Games because the rumor is they're for sale, according to a report in the Financial Times. Warner Brothers is looking to sell off at least part of its gaming division. Warner Brothers Discovery posted a 10 billion quarterly loss, and selling off assets reportedly could help them avoid lawsuits from various debt collectors. WB Games, who owns IP such as Harry Potter and Mortal Kombat, have had a rough year financially with ridiculously expensive Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, being a commercial and critical failure. Itself caused a 41% decline in year-over-year revenue. On today's earning call, CEO David Zaslav stated, quote, "We have 11 studios here and we have a lot of IP, and there's also a lot of interest among others in coming to take advantage of some of the IP for gaming, which we're looking at, prompting speculation that they could be open to licensing out their IP." So, Sam, how are we feeling about WB Games these days?
I mean, it's such a mixed bag, right? Because on one hand, NetherRealm, Mortal Kombat, like arguably kind of at the peak of really its entire height, if you want to call it that, and that's arguable. You know, you got the '80s, the '90s, but in terms of it still being like a, oh my God, Homelander's in Mortal Kombat trailer gets a million views. Like people still care about it. But on the other hand, you've got stuff like Suicide Squad and like what's going on with Rocksteady and all of these other kind of like middling to not so great performances. But then you've got stuff like Hogwarts Legacy. So it just goes back and forth continually. The idea of licensing stuff out really terrifies me. And I think one thing they leaned
Oh.
into is like the free to play space. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't need Harry Potter now. Like we've got the Monster Hunter, we've got the Pokemon Go. I get it, and they're probably going to do it, but it's like I want meaty experiences for these IP that I know and love, and I think looking back on it, I know it's like the trope, but it's like Arkham Knight, Arkham City, Arkham Asylum. Those are killer games. I would love to see a Spider-Man level comeback for something like a Superman game or anything like that. I think Hogwarts Legacy deserves to give more love for like the sequel and stuff for that, the people that love that world. But more stuff like that, that's a big AAA experience that has a relatively reasonable scope. I don't want to throw around like the AAA, quadruple A thing, but yeah, getting into where it's like anybody can make whatever they want. Could go the Warhammer route where it's a nice variety. It could go the, oh God, there are so many Harry Potter games now. I don't know
Mhm.
what to do with them. So it's toss up.
Yeah, so WB is interesting to me because you have Hogwarts Legacy launched last February, right? It was the best-selling game of 2023. I think 25 million copies it sold. I'm sure last figures were around that anyway. And then they do things like, yeah, we know that game was a financial success, but what about multiverses where we're going to pack it full of microtransactions? The gameplay is going to be mediocre, and then it's going to just be a grind fest over and over again. And then that game, it hasn't been a failure, but it has been nowhere near the success that they clearly wanted it to be. They pick up player first games and then they lean in, as you said on this investor call, they say, we're looking at more live service games. They have that Quidditch game coming out, I think, in a month or so. I
Yeah.
think it's launching on PS Plus. I don't think it looks particularly good. It looks like a mobile game on console, but it's very clear to me like they, regardless of how well Hogwarts Legacy did, they're still for some reason holding on to this, we need a live service game to constantly bring in money. Like Suicide Squad wasn't it. Gotham Knights was clearly meant to be a live service game before they pivoted at the last second, and that kind of ruined a lot of people's interpretation of that game. I think that game isn't nearly as bad as people make it out to be, but over and over again we're seeing them try live service and fail, and they continue to double down, and I'm not quite sure why when they have success after success with non-live service games.
Yeah, it's super weird. And I think that there's a certain type of live service game that tends to do well, and I feel like there are also risks that need to be taken. Like arguably Destiny 2 outside of the Crucible stuff doesn't feel like a live service game. Like that could have very well been a standalone first person shooter, start to
Mhm.
finish you're done, and then you go do your Crucible stuff and then it dies down over time. But they've kept it going with expansion, so that kind of proved that a gameplay that wasn't typically your multiplayer side of things, like a Battlefield or a PUBG or something like that could work with the live service. And so over time, I feel like that's spread to other types of games, including stuff like allegedly Gotham Knights was going to be like what we see now with Suicide Squad. Uh, but I feel like it's still like your Call of Duty can do that, your Halo can do that, your Battlefield can do that. And I don't know if we've seen like a proven example that I can think of other than stuff like Diablo, where it is like multiplayer grind, season based stuff. Like that's how that works. I don't think that story based like third person hero games are just the space for that. I think that's where the narrative comes in. That's the whole thing. So they haven't cracked the code with that one. Not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that it's they're breaking new ground if they can make it happen.
Sometimes it feels to me like they look at Ubisoft and they see things like The Division, right? They're like, "Oh, that's a third-person shooter, like, the story's okay," and it's really just, like, grinding loot, fighting other players in the dark zone, but, like, that is something that players enjoyed, and I don't wanna say Suicide Squad is kinda like The Division, but I can see
There are
in
similarities.
their yeah, the similarities. I can see in their mind where someone can be like, we have the characters that will draw people to our IPs as opposed to nameless Tom Clancy shooter that Ubisoft has. But then they put it in and they just don't get anything right about what they're doing. And I don't want to keep picking on Suicide Squad because, like I said, I'm playing it right now, but they do it over and over and over again. And then Multiverses to me feels very much like I don't, how do I phrase this? It feels like they care more about picking weird characters than they do making a good game because they're just like, what obscure IP character can we throw in here now? Oh, Gizmo from Gremlins. Bro. No one cares about Gizmo from Gremlins. Like Smash Brothers is successful because they pick the characters people want to play as, and you're not doing that. And then you're putting characters behind a gate that you have to grind for. It really is just a very strange strategy that WB has going on over there.
Yeah, and I think that there's also the element of like, how many live service games can we possibly have in the roster?
From the same
Because
yeah.
like people don't have time. Like the season 5 of Diablo just came out, and my fiance's been playing it, and it looks fun. But I also want to get that helmet that I talked about last week in Halo Infinite. I know that Delta Force Hawk Ops is coming out. It's pretty fun. I might put some time into that. That's a live service game that's going to have a battle pass model, I assume. And then you've got stuff like the Battlefield that's coming, and you just one after the other. And then I also have Neon White, and then Creatures of Ava, and all these other games that aren't following that model. I think that if you come out with a live service game, it's got to be there to compete. And you're going to have a core set of players that are there for that experience specifically. But can it dominate in the way that it needs to make up for a 41% decline in your gaming business or you know, whatever the official number is? That's a much, much bigger ask whenever you've got so much competition out there. And a company like Bungie is struggling with Destiny 2 in terms of like player retention after the big expansions drop. So yeah, man, it's all over the place. I don't know. We're in a very transitional time right now. And I think that's evident in the layoffs, in the amount of money these things are making outside of the core few. It's a strange time.
I genuinely see a world where WB could be much more successful though. Like the Batman 2, right, is coming out I think 2026 or something. Like why is there not a single player Batman game in development to come out near that, like when the hype is like tie your movie properties in with your game properties. So I know Wonder Woman has a game in development. We've heard nothing about that. Like that should have been a tie-in with I don't know if they're making another Wonder Woman movie or not, but like in a world where Wonder Woman gets another film, like those things should have synergy between them. And I don't feel like there is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Kind of Funny earlier this week on one of the games cast, and it was talking about the Suicide Squad game and how if that game had come out 5 years ago, could be a totally different situation because 5 years ago, like the live service grind was still new. It was a new concept. Not saying that people would have flocked to it, but now it feels more played out than ever. And Suicide Squad has had two movies, you know, and it's like just not a relevant IP in the way that it really needs to be to make a splash like that. So the more that they can do to take advantage of that kind of thing, like new Superman movies coming out, looks good, guns on board, excitement around that. Why didn't we spend time making a Superman game instead of the Suicide Squad thing? Just throwing that out there, and not that they knew that this stuff would happen because the cinematic universe is kind of like really changed a lot over the past couple of years. Sorry, Snyder. But yeah, man, I wish they would do more things that just make sense. I think that's kind of where we're all at. Like there are easy wins that they just seem to be missing inexplicably without any kind of reason as to why.
Yeah. I'm not overly opposed to them licensing out their IPs as long as they pick partners that make sense. Like, let people do single player games. Don't just hand it off to random studios. Like, pick someone that has experience, like seasoned development, like you did with Hogwarts Legacy. Like, that was a good developer for that. Like, pick a team that you know. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
Sam Heaney, I want to get in here. He writes in, and I've seen this going around social media, but WB Games seems to be up for sale once more. And Microsoft was interested last time this rumor came around in 2020. Do you think that it's a good idea for Xbox to buy them, and why?
I mean, personally, for me, I think the cart is full. Okay. Like, I feel like we are getting to the point where they have selectively chosen just about as many big names as they can and should have in the repertoire here. And I think that we're also seeing like they're already struggling with how to manage the giant pile of developers and middle managers that they've acquired over the past 5 years already. Having something that's as important in my mind as Rocksteady and NetherRealm up underneath that as well, that is scary, because I feel like personally, if it was an ideal world, NetherRealm exists in its own and they own the Mortal Kombat IP and they're just cranking it out. They're doing whatever they want. They're getting the licensing money. It's just happening naturally. I don't think that Xbox needs to get involved in that. I don't think that any acquisitions in that regard need to be involved in that, because like there's a value in having third parties. Not everything needs to be bought by the biggest publishers or the biggest console holders. So I hope that they do not. But I would love to hear your thoughts.
No, I'm with you. I see people talking about this on social media, hyping it up like this Xbox's next big acquisition. I'm like, why are we excited for this? Why have we not spent the last year and a half being like, Xbox really needs to get a hold on these studios? Oh, Xbox just shut down 4 of them, some of that we really liked. Like, we are full, okay? The bus, Phil Spencer pulled up, people got on the bus. No one, we got some people off the bus, but the bus is full, all right? There's no more room for studios at Xbox, all right? I just don't understand why people keep asking for more and more of this when it's like, I'd understand if WB was like, oh, well, the other choice is we shut everything down. I don't think that happens. Like, NetherRealm would be sold off. Like, they would start selling off pieces. I don't think WB Games as a whole needs to go to one specific person. If they're in a world where they're financially dire, sell off the pieces to random other publishers and let them have their little, I want that one, you want that, like ordering off a menu, all right? Because I do think that like NetherRealm under Xbox, I don't know what that looks like. Like, Xbox doesn't have a fighting game studio. That would be kind of cool, but Xbox also isn't the fighting game console as much as I wish it had more presence there. Like, Sony owns Evo. Sony has like a
Yeah.
firm grasp on that. So like, in my mind, NetherRealm would probably go to like PlayStation, and Rocksteady, I don't know where they would end up at all. So it's really interesting there. But no, do not get involved.
Who makes Killer Instinct, the newer one? Was that who was that?
That was
That wasn't Rare, was it?
no, it wasn't Rare. I forget. I'm gonna look it up. I forget
Yeah,
their
I'm looking
name.
it up.
Oh,
Iron
Iron
Galaxy?
Galaxy. Yep,
Yeah.
Iron Galaxy. Yep, that's who
And
it was.
that's is that owned by Xbox or no?
No, they are independent.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, because obviously Killer Instinct in my mind is the Xbox game. Like, that's the fighting game that they've kind of got just because they locked it down a little bit. But yeah, I don't think that they need to be acquired by any of these major publishers. And I think that thinking proactively about like the comments that would potentially come in of like, where was this energy with Activision? I feel like there was like an unspoken monopoly from PlayStation having these deals that were ongoing with Activision, to where it was locking people out of the early betas. It was giving you exclusive content, which is fair game. But that acquisition kind of leveled the playing field of like, assuming Xbox sticks to their word, they're like, hey, we aren't like taking this. Game Pass subscribers get it and everybody else gets it too. And there's no more walls between stuff like that. So that's a different thing than like NetherRealm being weirdly acquired because it's an opportunity. And then it's like, okay, what do we do with this? So I think that they have to be, every acquisition now more than ever has to be very intentional and planned for a purpose, because if the money's not there where you think it's going to be after you throw it down, that's a scary thing, because then you're like, all right, well, is this going to be a tax write-off? Is this going to be something we have to pull a tango? And it's like, financially, there's no future here. That's scary stuff. Like, I do not like that idea.
Yo, the fact that pulling a tango is a verb is
yeah,
sad,
we're
but
doing the tango now. I don't like that we're there, but that's the new lingo.
yeah, no, like if Activision Blizzard hadn't been acquired, I could be like, okay, this could be an interesting thing. But as far as I know, they pulled out last time because WB isn't interested in selling the IP. They just want the studios gone, but they want to keep their IP because that's how they make movies, right? They got the Harry Potter, they got the
Yeah.
What else they have? They have all the DC stuff, obviously, but yeah, that stuff isn't gonna go with the studio, so it really is a take it or leave it kind of thing.
The worst possible thing, and I don't even know if this would be possible, but if Warner Brothers closed down NetherRealm but kept the Mortal Kombat IP for the movie that's coming out with Carl Urban starring in it as Johnny Cage, dude, please, I'm gonna riot in the street if you shut down NetherRealm for a tax write-off. Again, just speculating, not saying that would happen, but they've got to figure it out, because you can't. It's peanut butter and jelly. Like, you can't have NetherRealm without Mortal Kombat. That's just that you can't do it. That's like having lungs without oxygen. It just doesn't work. Like, you've got to have it.
Hot take. I don't think the last Mortal Kombat movie was that good. Like,
oh no, everybody thinks it was pretty trash. Yeah,
I thought the consensus was like, oh, this is a decent Mortal Kombat movie for once. And it was like, oh, I'll go watch the old ones before I watch this one again.
Like, I think it's a dumb popcorn movie. Like, I don't think that it's like killing it. It's not winning cinematic awards. I think it's fine, and I like the combat in it, and I think it was fun. I do not think it was by any means a what you would call a good movie. Much better than Borderlands, though, from what I'm hearing. Much better than Borderlands.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. Debuting at a 0% on Rotten. I didn't even
up to 4 last time I checked. Up to 4.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I enjoyed what Kevin Hart was doing an interview. He was like, y'all don't know what you're in for. And it's like, I think that was a little bit of foreshadowing.
Unfortunately, Jamie Lee Curtis. Now I understand why you apologized to Kevin Feige and Marvel.
God, yeah, it's what a disaster that one's going to be.
All right, let's move on to story number 2. Little story here, but we have the Xbox Game Pass drop for the first half of August, and it's a very small drop. So, as mentioned, Creatures of Ava is available for cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. We also have Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy for cloud, console, and PC. And August 13th, you get Mafia Definitive Edition for cloud, console, PC. So, Sam, I already talked about Creatures of Ava, obviously. Everyone go, if you haven't for some reason, play the Crash Bandicoot trilogy. They're phenomenal games. But I wanted to point out that is the first Activision Blizzard game that has cloud functionality.
Yeah, I wonder if next month on the Ubisoft earnings call, they're going to be like, "Hey, what's that big spike on the on the income graph?" And they're going to be like, "That's where Xbox licensed their game back to them." So congratulations to the stakeholders over at Ubisoft. But cool to see. I mean, so I own 2 of these. I own in the Insane Trilogy, which I bought from GameStop thinking it was Crash Team Racing, but they put the wrong disc in the box, and I just didn't. I didn't worry about taking it back because I'm like, okay,
it's a pretty good swap,
Yeah, it's fine. 3 games instead of 1. All right. So I already have that one, and then I have Mafia Definitive Edition. Admittedly, haven't finished the Insane Trilogy and did not play Mafia. Like, I have it, I just never played it because I bought it on like a Black Friday. So solid drop for the people that don't have these, and then Creatures of Ava getting in there as a day 1 release. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Obviously, we had Call of Duty in between this drop and the last drop, so maybe that's like the supplemental. But like the last few have been very, very small drops. I wonder if this is like going to be a consistent theme going forward, where we're like quality over quantity. Who knows?
I mean, I think there is value in that approach personally, because I feel like a lot of the bigger games, like if you God help you if you were in the drop that have Modern Warfare 3 alongside whatever indie games were thrown in there as well. I don't remember what the lineup is, but like you're not getting any kind of airtime on that. And it's almost like a respect for being able to say, hey, here's Creatures of Ava, here's your Crash game, that's exciting one, and then here's Mafia. Like those are three that are they're quality across the board. Like Creatures of Ava is getting good reviews, and then the other two are kind of like arguably, really really good legendary kind of games. You can build a backlog that's not scary. Like you can get through those pretty easily, and I think right now I'd love to see the engagement stats on some of the smaller Game Pass games because you want to get that love spread across the board, and I think it's just dominated by the things that are kind of like the go-tos for a lot of people. So maybe less is more sometimes.
Yeah, certainly. We'll wait to see what the second half. Maybe they're saving everything for the second half of the month, but
20 tierly, yeah.
Yeah. That's that Activision Blizzard that thing that always goes around social media where it's every Spider-Man game. That's
guaranteed.
Coming. Yeah, that's coming. All right. Story number 3, though. Speaking of smaller games, Xbox has reportedly formed a new team within Blizzard. This comes from Jez Corden over at Windows Central. The new team will apparently focus on smaller AA titles based on existing Blizzard franchises like Overwatch, Warcraft, and beyond. So, what are you thinking here? It sounds like they came together, took some of their employees, say, guys, we're going to have a small studio, going to make smaller games based on our IP that we own because we need to leverage this more than every 6 to 10 years.
I think that it's good in theory. At the same time, I'm looking at this and I'm like, we've got the Xbox mobile store allegedly coming. Is this hinting that there are going to be smaller games that are thrown onto the mobile store? Or is this going to be stuff like a standalone Overwatch regular like single player game or a Warcraft 3 style spinoff that's not a giant WoW expansion? Or are we talking stuff like Mighty Doom, which was not bad, but like RIP, we're no longer with us. Like I want these games to thrive, but also are we in the time that they're going to be able to do well and do what they need to do to financially make sense? I don't know, but without experimentation, you'll never know. So it's kind of like a cost of doing business almost.
It's so funny you bring up the mobile store because that's exactly where my mind went first for like concern was, oh, this team's meant to make mobile games, or Xbox for some reason believes that console style games can succeed on phones, which has yet to be proven, as we've seen like Assassin's Creed, Death Stranding. Like no one's buying those type of games to play on their phone. So if Xbox is sitting there and like, I know they're testing their mobile store. In my mind, that was going to be an actual mobile store, like those short experiences, ads, like microtransactions to play more. But if they're like, nah, we're going to have like a StarCraft Ghost, we're bringing it back, from way back when, that's going to be a mobile game or maybe a console and mobile experience. Like that concerns me because then you're limiting what the scope of the game could be, how good it can be. Like I'm always going to look at that with kind of a side eye.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that you can kind of get the hint where they're like comprised within Blizzard and King. Okay, well, so what I'm hearing is Warcraft Match 3 game. That's what I'm basically hearing, which I feel like is a thing. I'm thinking about Warcraft Rumble. Isn't that like a Match 3 game?
I've never heard of that. I'm going to Google it right now.
Yeah, Warcraft Rumble is, I can't remember if that's a Match 3 or not.
Doesn't look like
no, it's not a match 3,
like
but
it
is
tower defense game, if anything.
And I feel like I heard Luke Lore talking about this as well, that he actually liked it. I haven't played it, could be great, but I feel like this is going to be what you see more of coming from this team. I would love to be wrong. I would really love to be wrong. I would also love to see them spin off and actually make a developer that's going to do something with like StarCraft and these antiquated IP that are no longer with us. Like actually do that and use the IP that you've got, rather than like, hey, by the way, this is Tracer's Tiny Tina clock or what, like some dumb stuff that's like trying to integrate. I don't know, man.
Tracer Run.
Yes, like Temple Run, but with Tracer. That's exactly. You keep those up, you're gonna get hired on.
What's the guy that says it's high noon?
Oh, we can't call him McCree anymore. What's his name? What's his name? McCree new name. Cole Cassidy.
Oh, I don't like that name at all. I was just like Cole Cassidy's High Noon, and it's just a shooting gallery game.
I mean, listen, man, don't hate on the light gun game replicas. I like those things. Pretty good time.
All right, well, we'll see what Xbox does. I don't have particularly high hopes, but we'll see. Last story
It's
for
high hopes.
yeah, high hopes.
Uh,
Last story for today, as we talked about when we started the show, but Game Informer has been shut down. The parent company GameStop laid off the entirety of the Game Informer staff and shut down the publication last Friday. A Game Informer staff member tried to use the site's social media channels to post a goodbye message, prompting GameStop to then delete the account and all Game Informer content. This ends a 33-year run for the publication. Sam, I know you made a video about this. You feel pretty strongly about this. How do you feel about Game Informer going away, though?
I mean, it's such a bummer, man, because this is like I said at the beginning of the show, this is the reason why I do what I do now in my spare time, is because like I developed a love for gaming through Game Informer, and through the years, I mean, Game Informer is up there with G4 for me of things that were influential, like watching X Play and Attack of the Show and Cheat and things like that growing up made me want to be on film talking about games. And so then I kind of like started doing my own thing when YouTube came into my life and things like that. Game Informer is like the writing side of that. And I went to college to be in gaming journalism. Like I had the intent to fly out to San Francisco and be like hired on by IGN or whoever would have me. And obviously, you know, your dreams change over time as life kind of comes into its own, and you're like, turns out I like my family, don't want to leave. And so like that's kind of how things panned out. But it's still a passion that I have with me every day, and to know that that's gone. I mean, I think that it's something that was kind of inevitable because of the way that we see the industry going, where it is more about podcast conversations, it's about content creators, but at the same time, those deep, in-depth interviews, those feature stories on the one that comes to mind for me is the Callisto Protocol, where I was reading about that in a magazine on the beach, getting hyped for the fall, and like that in my mind is Game Informer. And you can still find different game magazines that are out there. I know there's like a retro gaming magazine that you can buy, but it's like something you've got to seek out at Barnes and Noble that's been imported. It's more of like a specialized thing, rather than something that's very accessible and kind of still part of the mainstream. So it's just really unfortunate to see. And it's even more unfortunate to see GameStop fail to recognize the impact that not only the Twitter feed, but the entire website and that huge catalog of work that spans really since the beginning of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole catalog is just gone. Now, some of it is saved in like the web, Wayback Machine and stuff like that. But and I know that there are projects out there that are working on digitizing every Game Informer that was ever published, so like that work won't be gone entirely, but those backlinks, those images, those that coverage that's lasted for decades is just gone. And that's shame. That's a crime in the gaming world in my eyes. I mean, it's just really, really sad.
Yeah, I think first thing I wanted to say was I think GameStop's complete lack of respect
Right.
for not only Game Informer but like the people at Game Informer is disgusting. Like surprise firing people, shutting down the company is always going to suck. But then to delete their years of hard work, not to let them say goodbye, was it even what they posted? Wasn't like a oh f you GameStop. Like I could understand GameStop not wanting something like that on the social media, but I don't see the problem with them being like, hey, this is from the staff. Like, thank you for reading our work. And like it comes across very disrespectful to me. And I don't understand why GameStop would take that approach, because it does very much look like we never really cared about Game Informer. Like we bought it and we just don't care about it at all. Like that is completely how it comes across to me. And then I think about the way that they've treated Game Informer over the years, which is like they just announced a subscription service like 3-4 months
I think it
ago,
was
right?
March. Yeah, it was in
Yeah,
March.
it was a few months ago where they were like, "Hey, give you a year for $20." It was a pretty good price
It
for
was
what the
1991 as the launch price because that was the year
that's
they were founded. Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, so around $20 if for a year's worth of magazines, which I'm like, that's a better deal than you get with the GameStop Pro card. Like
Hmm.
it cost me more for that, but to announce that and then months later just be like, just kidding. And then from what I've heard, they're not just automatically refunding people. You have to reach out to them to get your refund for your like if you bought a year subscription or 2 years, like GameStop isn't just being like, here you go, here's your money back. So that's also really crappy. I just don't understand why like, they don't recognize that like Game Informer as a name is very significant in the industry, and maybe print media isn't what they want. Like maybe they see no money, no viable way to keep that going. But why not try content creation or some video space? Like why not spin off Game Informer, use that name, and like the future of Game Informer is uh, whether it's podcasting, whether it's video essays, guides, like something to try to bring it into the year 2024.
Yeah, I mean, they had been doing that in like a pretty impressive capacity. And I think the thing is like it's just such a saturated market. And then Game Informer was owned by GameStop, so for some people they looked at it and it's like, oh, here's the propaganda machine swinging up propaganda. But in reality, it was like Brian Shea and Alex Van Aken and all these other people that were over there that were doing great work talking about games. And the Game Informer show is still like, it was one of my favorites to listen to from time to time. And on top of that, specifically for Alex Van Aken, who like I don't know personally, I've never spoken to him directly, but he is one of the people that I look up to in such a huge way for like video work. I mean, he was flown out to, I believe the last one that I watched was From Software. I think they went out to talk about the release of Shadow of the Erd Tree or one of those projects. And it was like super impressive, really, really high quality video work. And they were looking like the Game Informer team could shape up to be like a no clip. Like, I mean, they were like that good with the stuff that they were doing. And I think it's such a bummer to see the momentum they had. Number one, not get the attention it deserved, but number two, just get thrown to the wayside from GameStop whenever they're obviously financially trying to make things work for themselves. But at the same time, like you said, there's so much potential here with the team that you've got. And it was just squandered by lack of like the GameStop account never tweeted about Game Informer. You never saw any of that cross population of letting people know that it was still alive. In the comment section, I was like, man, I saw tons of comments that were like, man, I missed that physical magazine. Brother, you could have bought it.
Yeah.
Like no one knew it was there because no one talked about it. Like I was talking about it, but no one else talked about it. And I know people in our community are, but it's like on a grand scale, it wasn't publicized.
Yeah, so I pulled up their YouTube channel, which is still up actually, Game Informer YouTube, 740,000 subscribers, a good amount of subscribers for a gaming content. But like they don't have they have trailers mainly or like exclusive gameplay or something, which is great. But in my mind, like could they have succeeded with maybe not the entire staff doing this, but really going in on being a podcast content create like guides, like could they have done more of that content just to try to see if there's any traction there? I know it, like I said, it is a very competitive space. Like I know that for certain, we're doing it right now. I don't know. I feel like people would have seen Game Informer and maybe gave it more credibility than seeing, oh, this dude has 126 subs, I'm gonna watch him instead. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, you can look back on what would have been, but
Does,
also, all I'll say is the people that were a Game Informer, that is a talented squad of people that I feel like if you have writing chops, there's so much value you can bring to any production because writing is half of the battle of like constructing good thoughts, and Game Informer had deep, thoughtful content that was made. And I know that there's a lot of other people that do that out there, but they did something really special. So I hope that everybody lands on their feet. And GameStop, what are you doing, man? Like you just let go of one of you, I would consider to be the core assets that really brought value for you, or that could have even brought future value for you.
I assume that the GameStop Pro card price will now decrease because Game Informer was one of the key aspects. Yes, like
guaranteed.
that announcement. Yeah.
Yeah. I highly doubt that, but I have officially, now that you said it, I need to refund my my print magazine subscription. But I'm also obviously canceling my GameStop Pro because like I had it for Game Informer originally, then they just switched to digital, and now it's like, well, the magazine's gone, so I think I'm good.
Yeah, I buy digital games, or I buy my Switch games, which is the only reason I would ever go to a GameStop. I now find that if I'm okay just waiting a week, I can get them $20 to $30 off on Play Asia. So I'm just gonna do that instead.
Yeah, I mean, when you open up GameStop.com, they've got free year of GameStop Pro when you open up the GameStop credit card. I'm good, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, GameStop. Can't imagine why your business is failing.
Yeah, no idea.
All right. Hope everyone lands on their feet as always with these sad, sad announcements. But let's go to listener questions to round out the show. We got a few this week. David Hotright writes in, says, the video game industry makes more than the film industry. Xbox is becoming one of the core tenets for Microsoft as a whole. Why does Microsoft not value Xbox enough to give them a decent marketing budget?
I mean, that's the question, right? I mean, it's like so opportunistic to be able to throw money down at something, but I think it comes down to that issue of they've got so many games they've got to promote, and now it's spread so thin, right? Like you've got Black Ops 6 that's coming out, and that's going to take up all the marketing budget, and then you've got all of these other games that are coming out, like Creatures of Ava. I haven't seen talked about by the official Xbox account at all, except for the Game Pass like tweet, and it's available today. Neon White, again, like we've been waiting on that for 3 years. I've seen it talked about, none. So I think the Microsoft really does need to reallocate stuff to Xbox if they want that to grow in terms of marketing budget. And maybe that's going to be in the next fiscal year, where now that these acquisitions have come and they can kind of reallocate some of those resources to actually letting people know stuff is going on. But I think it's an issue of like so many things to talk about, that how do you squeeze it all into a Twitter timeline or an ad set? I don't even know. It's so much to break down.
Yeah, I do feel like Xbox is picking and choosing what gets marketing. Clearly, like I've seen more Call of Duty marketing already than I saw for Hellblade 2 leading up to its launch. So they're clearly being picky about what they decide to advertise, where they decide to advertise it. And I completely understand that, because when you look at Call of Duty, which is probably gonna be the biggest game of the year, versus Hellblade 2, which is always going to be a more niche title. Well, where would where would big money Microsoft want to throw their marketing bucks? The game that's going to make them more money. And I see Crash Bandicoot getting some Game Pass love right now, but it is just the Crash Bandicoot and Game Pass Twitter accounts talking to each other, which is basically just like you got two social media people just chatting online, essentially, is your marketing right now. Like there isn't really the big splash, and I don't feel like Xbox does that very much anymore. Like Starfield, I saw a lot of commercials. I remember leading up to launch of that during like sporting events and stuff, but I don't think we're going to see that on a consistent basis for like every Xbox title. Like when Avowed comes out in February, right? I don't know how many Avowed commercials we're going to see.
Yeah, no. I mean, admittedly, when it comes to commercials in terms of like TV stuff, like I don't have cable. I have no idea what's going on out there. But I guarantee you, like, there's going to be Indiana Jones primetime NFL Thursday night football spots for stuff like that. You're going to see the Call of Duty Black Ops stuff that's coming out of the Activision slot of the budget over there. And then when it comes to the smaller, like, I feel like those are your echelon of like, okay, you're getting real marketing. And then you'll have your Avowed, you'll have your other games that are coming down the pike. Like, you won't see a flight sim ad or anything like that. I think that the times are just changing, but like, you got to let people know these are happening. That's a fact, and they're not good at that still. And so we all see a vertical slice of what's going on. And admittedly, like, we're more tuned into the conversation, so we're probably more aware than anybody. Like, how many mainstream people know what Creatures of Ava is? Probably no one. But that's not going to change unless the platform holder or somebody makes a bigger deal out of it. So I don't know what'll come of it.
Yeah, how many? I wonder. I would love to. I should do this experiment. I should go ask my like girlfriend's brother-in-laws who are always watching TV, always watching sports, and I just want to be like, "Do you know what Game Pass is?" I just wanted like they have video game console, like they have PS5s, like they're not into it, but like they know what games are. Like they buy games for their kids, they play games. I would just love to be like, seen a commercial for an Xbox lately.
Right. Yeah. I would be very interested to know that as well. And I mean, maybe that speaks to like how disconnected I am from the mainstream audience of like TV stuff, because we just watch Netflix occasionally and then we're playing games most of the time. But yeah, man, obviously they've got teams that are digging into like how aware people are of this kind of thing. But if you're not aware of Game Pass, boy, that's a problem for Xbox, because like that is their thing. That's what they want you to know about. So knowing about Doom Eternal and Black Ops and Indiana Jones is great, but like they want you to know about Game Pass too.
Yeah, Rick Davis. What's weird is how much they do advertise Game Pass, but not their own games. It's weird. I will say that like when I do see Game Pass ads, and we'll see this like opening night live and probably the Game Awards, they always have Game Pass ads in them, right? I
Yep,
always feel like the games they're showing off are like those big third party games.
they are. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they're never just like, oh, here's all the Xbox games you can play.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean maybe that's by intent. I think that'll be super interesting to see how they end up swinging that this year. Because I'm sure if it's Gamescom's kind of weird because it's not really like a mainstream event, but it is the
Hmm.
fall E3, so it's kind of like you got to balance that. But I'd be surprised if we didn't see some EA Play stuff thrown in there. Which, yeah, going back to the conversation we had a few weeks ago, I'm surprised EA Play is still in the mix. I thought there was going to be some change with that, like when we were talking about potential Game Pass shifts around to keep it cheaper. I obviously it increased in price, but EA Play is still locked in. I don't know how long that deal is going to last. Is that just indefinite? Like it's just ongoing?
They haven't announced like a end to the like there was no end date on that deal. And like I've expected it to leave multiple times now
Yeah,
because I know that college football 25 or whatever, like that new one, it blew up. Like it's had
yeah,
crazy amount of players, all right. But like apparently the Series S really benefited from that game because people were just going out buying the cheapest next gen console they could to play this new college football game, and you
right.
could play a 10-hour trial in Game Pass. So I wonder if people were like signed up for that, played 10 hours if they wanted to. Like I want to know that kind of information.
Oh, 100%. I guarantee you that that people signed up and converted from that. But I mean, even now, I'm like, I have that 10-hour trial. I might give it a shot because I'm a casual football guy. Like I'm excited about the college football stuff. I'm not excited to have played it yet, but like I'm excited to have that back. So, yeah, man, I think it's a really, really valuable marketing tool. I'm just curious if it'll be like a 10-year deal. And when that goes away, how big of a dent is that going to make in the bottom line for Game Pass people? Because that's like, we're paying more than ever and you're taking something away. Feels weird.
I wonder if the price goes down if it ever does leave. I really do. I just wonder if
Oh, I
they
doubt
just
it.
kind of like sweep it under the rug, you know?
Oh yeah, no, the price does not go down. I would be shocked if the price ever went down rather than up.
All right, one last question, then we'll get out of here. Writes in, says, Avowed has officially been delayed. This technically means, from an exclusive perspective, Xbox will only have, and he says, Pow World, Hellblade 2, Indiana Jones, Stalker 2, Towerborn, Flight Sim, Aura History Untold, Age of Mythology, and replaced potentially. Are these enough for a strong 2024 in your eyes?
I think that it's enough for a strong 2024 for me because looking at that cadence of like Black Ops is coming out, that's a big Game Pass drop. Looking at Indiana Jones, that's a big Game Pass drop. Then you've got the smaller ones like Towerborn that was mentioned there as well. But I think for me, you're also looking at the third parties. Like there are enough games to keep me entertained. And I think the thing that I keep coming back to are things like not only Space Marine 2 from the third party, but Vessel of Blood and Starfield Shattered Space. Like those are going to be pretty big time consuming things. And so I think as somebody who plays on a good week, 20 to 25 hours, like if I'm really really getting time in, that's going to be more than enough for me. So I don't mind having Avowed kicked further so that I can spend the time that it requires with it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, Avowed was my most anticipated for this fall, so I'm a little more bummed that it did get pushed. Luckily, February 18th isn't that far. It's like an additional what 3 months from its original release date. So like
Mhm.
it moved it a quarter. It's not the end of the world. I do find it strange that he puts Pow World in here, where like Xbox has other exclusives, like Creature of Ava is technically exclusive. Like we're not going to list that on here. I assume Pow World's here because it made such a big splash. But like Xbox has, but like is replaced like a big game for them. I don't view it that way. Maybe other people do. I I don't know, man. Like, is it a strong 2024 Hellblade, Indiana Jones, Towerborn, and then Flight Sit? Like, that is meeting their game every quarter. Like, it's a good output of games. I think some of them are more niche than others. So it really just depends on your interest, your like what you were looking forward to this year. For me, I think this is an okay year for Xbox. Like, I loved Hellblade 2. I'm interested in Towerborn. But like compared to something like 2021, where I think Xbox was nailing it, like Psychonauts 2, Halo, like a little different for me.
Yeah, it's different. And I also misread the question of the exclusive perspective. So talking to that thing, that's a little bit different. But I also feel like it's like eh, I get the argument for exclusives, but also at the same time, like I see Xbox as just like the way that I play now, and it's like
Hmm.
if you zoom out, there are so many games that just happen to be coming to everything. But if you're talking about the competitive Xbox side, I still think it holds its own there from the things that are going to be able to show up and kind of show out. So, do you think Stalker 2 actually lands in November? That's the
Oh
question I want to end off with.
man. um, I don't know. I know it's hard for me to feel confident because it's been delayed so many times. And honestly, like if what if the war escalates and something like crazy happens over there? Who knows? Like you can't predict these things.
Yeah, you never know. But I was just curious if you had a vibe on that. I think it'll probably land it, but like I would not be shocked in the slightest to see like, by the way, Comrade, February, like that'll be the announcement officially.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But that is it for this week's show. Sam, can you let everyone know where they can find you, my friend?
Yeah, you can find me over on threads at JamPackSam. I've got the TikTok, the Instagram, the YouTube stuff. Been putting out some good stuff over the course of the past week. Shout out to Xbox for sending me the Sky Cipher Xbox controller to check out. I'll probably talk about this one and the Elite Series 2 on the post show a little bit. I bought this one with my own money, so I've got some thoughts on these bad boys. But yeah, I've been talking about that, making content throughout the week. Always a good time, and of course here every week except for next week, which we'll talk about
Mhm.
later on. But yeah, man, happy to be here.
Yes, Sam will be off next week. I will have a replacement or maybe two lined up for him. So stay tuned for that. But until then, you can find me at the Muffin Mon on all social media. 1 to 7 I own 7A. Follow us at Save Game Media on everything to stay up to date with all of our latest content. We put out a few reviews this week, so check out Creatures of Ava, and Bree did a review for Deathbound, a new Souls-like game. So check out her review. Show it some love. Would appreciate that. Until next week, though.